tātou te whare. Tuatahi e rongo ana koutou i ai, ki murira. I don't really want to have to use the mic if that's right, it's a bit weird for me. Tēnā tātou. Ai tuatahi e mihi ana ki te maunga o putahi e tūnei. Tērā maunga tapu o tātou te whare o ngā puhi. Te wāhi oki oki o tātou rangatira, ngā kōiwi o ngā hapu maha o te whare o ngā puhi. Nō reire e mihi ana ki tō mātou nei maunga e tūnei. Ki ngā awa e rere ana, tō mātou nei roto o Ōmāpere, te pū o te wheke o ngā puhi me ki. Nō reire e mihi ana ki ēnā o ngā tūranga ki roto i tēnei takiwā, he kanohi, he mata o te whenua, o te taia. Nō reira e mihi ana, ka tika. I muri tēnā me mihi ki o tātou nei hapu, o tātou nei whānau e pupuri ana i te mauri o ngā kaitiaki ki ēnā o ngā momotanga ki a mātou. Nō reira, kia kōrua te taumata. E mohi ana au, ka ari au i konei te ata nei, engari ka rongo i ngā kupu kua rarangahi ai ki roto i tēnā aguatanga o te karakia. Ana kia rarangahi ai te taha wairua, ki te taha kiko kiko nei. Nō reira e mihi ana kia kōrua e pupuri ana te tapu o te taumata. Ka tika. Nā huri mai kia tātou e hui nei raru te tuanui o tēnei whare. Ai, nōku te whiwhi, nōku te maringa nui kia tae i tēnei ahi ahi, ki te whakatakoto i etahi o ngā kōrero i pāna ki Ōkumahi. Nō reira, e mihi ana ki a koe Amon, Liz, te RN team, Thalia, Charlie, now Will, tēnā koe Will, I see you in the edit team. Yeah, pai, nōku te whiwhi. Ko te hiahia, ana ke te takoto i tētahi manu ki tēnei wā. Ko te hiahia ke te haere tonu oku nei kōrero e pāna ki tēnei kaupapa ki roto i te reo Māori. Ko nā taku tino hiahia. I tipu ake au ki roto i te āhuatanga o te kohanga reo, te kura kaupapa, e rā momo katoa, ana ka tai atu ki tēnei wā. Ana ko te take, ko te nuinga o tātou, kore mārama ki oku nei kupu. Ana mena hiahia ana tātou ki te kōrero, ka tika ki raro i te tika me te pono, me te mana o tērā reo ki tēnei reo, ki tēnā momo tangata, ki tēnei momo tangata, ki au nei me mohio i ngā kupu. Me mohio ngā kupu. E ai ki etahi o ngā kupu i haramai i Amon, me whai te ao marama. Ki au nei ko tētahi o ngā kaupapa o te ao marama. Ana kia mohio wai. So, ko te tumanako i tēnei wā, ka huri ki tērā atu reo, etahi ki ko te reo pihike, ko te reo Pākehā, ko te reo tāhei whenua, hei aha. Engari, ko takoto te manuka. So, tēnei wā, ki te huri. So I just said there, I'm putting down a branch of manuka, which is a traditional, some of you have probably seen a pohiri before, and that is put down as a challenge. So for me, what I was just saying there, if you didn't understand already, was that I wanted to continue to do this presentation in my indigenous language of Māori. But because of where we're currently at as a nation and as a society, not everyone understands that. So my challenge, in terms of my manuka, is try and learn it. Lots of opportunities to learn it. You know, it's everywhere. You can get it on Zoom. There's lots of places. It's just whether or not you're willing to be a part of it. And then maybe, let's say in 3 generations,
hopefully not that long,
we're able to sit here and have those conversations in both languages comfortably, and everyone understands. So I thought I'd just start there and throw a little one of those ones out here first. So in terms of my mahi, so my name's Te Maapi Simich-Pene. I come from a little place in Waimate North, a little village called Tauwhara. My maunga is Whakataha, my river is Waitangi, my hapu are Ngāti Rehia, Ngai Tawake ki te tua whenua e Ngāti Tautahi. and our overarching tribe is Ngāpuhi. I have links into other places in the central North Island, into Waikato, Tainui, Ngāti Haua, Maniapoto, Ngāti Tūwharetoa, and my mother comes from the Ish tribes of Europe. Is probably the best way to summarise that. So that's a little bit about me, and what I like to call that is essentially my cultural ID card. So whenever I go to whatever marae or whatever, you pull out whakataha te mau, Ko Waitangi Te Awa, Ko Te Marae, it's your cultural ID card. And if there's anyone sitting in the room, that's essentially a traditional, I guess, mechanism that we use to pull ourselves together, and whanaungatanga is made from that. So that's a little bit about me, and yeah, I guess in terms of today and being invited here to have a bit of a kōrero around the mahi that I'm currently involved in. Firstly, wanted to acknowledge the RN and in particular you, Storm. Hard act to follow, by the way. You got a few laughs there, my bro. A few laughs there. So me and Storm met each other. So I jumped in with RN after the PGF fund come through. And little story, when I met Storm, he was on the Whirinaki River, 13 years old ute, and 2 of his cousins, maybe 3, little chainsaw, and I was just like, kia ora bro, I've been asked to come and have a kōrero with you. Long story short, we did 75 hectares of planting. I think it was 375,000 trees in the 2-year period, and it was just a great, cool journey, and it's awesome to see where you've landed now, and it's we've been 3 years down the track now from that point, and it was something that us and RN talked about, and it was like one of the things that we were pushing hard, which is why me and Julie linked in with you and wrapped around as much as we could, and having the resources through RN to be able to bring in the HR specialists and the financial people to help out, or having those workshops with the crew so you've got all your health and safety covered, so all of those sorts of things were just really cool to be a part of, and it's a great story, man. It's a great story. It's cool, and it's really cool to see it get presented by you. So just want to acknowledge that. The reason why I'm actually here is Ko Waitangi Te Awa Trust. So when I finished up with RN, we were in the process at that point of building a non-profit organisation specifically focused on the Waitangi catchment. I might just chuck that there so it's images and it's not just me talking with a symbol behind me. But yeah, essentially we set it up informally. It links into the 6 marae of the Waitangi catchment. So those being, so ki te taha o te roto o Ōmāpere, there's Rāwhitiroa, Whenua, and then you come over to this side and you've got Ngāwhā Marae, and then you come over back to Waimate and there's Tauwhara Marae, and then there's Oromahue Marae, and then there's Waitangi Marae. Sorry, 7. So these marae are informally represented in our board. And we couldn't do it formally because, as we all know, Ngāpuhi ko Haurau and all of the issues that we have in some of those spaces, particularly on marae committees. We've intentionally steered away from that and kept it informal, but the people that we have on our board, people like Ngāti Kawa Taituha, who sits as the chair for Waitangi Marae, and others. I won't go through all of them, but we've got representatives from most of the marae. Created a non-profit, and core focus was pretty much to do what you can see in terms of these images here. I'll go through some of the images to give some background on it. But essentially what we wanted to look at was, there were issues within our catchment. The study was done on the Waitangi catchment. It was made a priority catchment by NRC. And, they had a look at the land use that was happening in there, did some studies on it, and a bit of a report came out. As a response to that, we formed a non-profit, and want to acknowledge a fella named Sam Judd at this point. It was him that I guess helped with as an intervention specialist or intervention technician, having skills in application writing, you know, got a background in law, was able to transition or transcend some of the areas that some of us weren't able to. And that'll lead into my next quarter afterwards, which is around partnership. So essentially Sam helped us as an organisation, or to form an organisation, go through, get the trust deed done, all those sorts of things, and then go out to MFE and apply for funding, which is what happened. And yeah, then COVID happened, whole lots of things. We've managed to operationalise a team in January of 2023 is when we got up and running. So still relatively young, you know, like more than young, still an infant as an organisation. Still an infant, really. I guess when I say that, it sounds a little bit funny, but so I've been playing the environmental game for about 20 odd years. Worked with, just giving some context in terms of that comment around an infant organisation. So I worked with Ngāti Haua Mahi Trust. Ngāti Haua Mahi Trust was an organisation, environmental organisation down in the Hauraki Plains, and essentially feed into the Waikato River settlement kaupapa. To give some context, most of you will know Puni River Care and Shannon Te Hui and those crews there. They've been operating, Shannon and Ngāti Haua Mahi Trust, so PRC and Ngāti Haua Mahi Trust, kind of stemmed at the same time. Shannon now has like 54 staff. You know, they've got capacity of 2 million trees in their nursery, and they're going hard all through the Waipa, all through the Waikato, and they're, you know, I think he got like Young New Zealander of the Year a couple of years ago, things like that. That's an organisation that's at maturity. This is an organisation that's very much at an infant stage. So we've got our first, you know, lot of funding, and then we're starting to get into some mahi. In terms of the mahi, what we've got here in terms of images, cousin Bo, he's sitting down the back there. Bo. So doing some mahi there. So working in the stream. So I guess in terms of our MFE funding and what we were looking to do in our milestones was create 14 jobs, plant 500,000 trees into the Waitangi catchment, set up pest control lines to manage all of those forests that we're creating, and I think it was roughly like 50 something hectares to plant through that project. So Bo's one of our kaimahi. I think he was probably one of the first that I signed up actually. 9th of January 23 was when that happened. But in this mahi, here's the monitoring aspect of the project. So we plant all our trees, we get our baseline data around the mahi that we're doing, linking in with Whitebait Connection, another thing there, partnership, and working together to achieve the outcomes and our milestones within our project of MFE. So there's monitoring work, there's the boys monitoring here, some planting here. One of our taonga species, our tuna. Bo working with our school kids, I think that's Ohawai. So we've built our partnerships with each of the primary schools within our catchments. That's Oromahue, Ohawai and Pakaraka. Yeah, obviously doing some planting, things like that. Just going to jump here. This is our catchment area. So Lake Ōmāpere is the main stem of Waimate North. We do mahi outside of as well. Not as much as Storm, but this is kind of our focus area, and that's essentially our MFE focused area. That's our public funding is focused on that, and so we're just pumping all our resources into that area. I think that's probably a point where I would start to segue into the holistic approach that MFE funding or restrictions of funding. You know, government agencies tend to box things, and we were fortunate enough that we had enough creative minds within our leadership team to be able to work our way around that and create a more holistic approach to what we wanted to do. And the main thing for us was looking at kaitiaki. and how and what and who we're going to work with to achieve the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal for me, and I'll reference my kids, is my nephew back on that first slide, Te Koha. The ultimate goal for me was for our kids to be able to swim in our river all year round, whenever they want. At least swim from it. Drink from our punas without being worried about our hapu woman getting blue baby syndrome because the nitrate levels are too high. And for us to be able to safely harvest pipis off the pipi beds in front of Te Tii Marae and Waitangi, which is the river mouth of our catchment. So those were like our fundamentals that we wanted to achieve. How we got there, or how we're trying to get there, is, in my opinion, it comes back to relationships and partnership. And I'd like to acknowledge and reference, firstly, Te Whakaputanga and the vision that our ancestors had in 1835, October 28th, down at Taurangatira in Waitangi, where all of the indigenous peoples that have been here for 1,000 years came to this one place and had a big kōrero for days and days. And we were seeing these ships come in with these big white sails and these flags and trading with us and things like that, and our tupuna could see stuff and they're like, we need to do something. So the kara was created so that we could deal with the situation that was coming in front of us. So I want to acknowledge that. And then I also want to acknowledge the Treaty of Waitangi that essentially brings us all into this room. It was that treaty there that essentially got us here. It's our founding document for this nation. And for me, born and raised Ngāpuhi boy, I've been, our whānau were part of the activist whānau. Like, that was us. Me and my cousin Bo, that was us. Like, we went down to Waitangi the 4th of February every year, and we had our flags and we protested, we hakaed, we sang, we danced, we did all these sorts of things. And that for me essentially set a certain type of mindset within me. When I was a younger fellow, it was pretty much like, pretty much like what Inga was saying around anti-establishment, anti-authorities, all those sorts of things. But I think going through the journey of the environmental waka has essentially opened my eyes to to achieve the healthy pipi beds and to achieve water being drunk out of the puna. Partnership is key. And I think that's one of the things that our tupuna saw when Heke and Wakanene stood on that ātea up on the treaty grounds and said, okay, let's sign this document. They talked for 4 days before they did it. But when Heke and them stood up there and he was the first one to put a signature there, it was about partnership. And we all know, and I'm not going to go into the whole philosophical kōrero around the treaty and all those sorts of things. But I think it's important when we're talking about doing this type of mahi, we're looking at it in a holistic way. And for me, it's that partnership. And we've had some issues where the other partner has not played the game. We all know that. And there's redress and settlement packages that are happening across the country because it's acknowledged that it was done in ill faith. And we know up here in Ngāpuhi we still haven't done that. And I acknowledge you and the current government. It's going to be a difficult road to work with us all, but I hope you have a nudge at it, and I'm sure Luxton will. And that's that kaupapa. But coming back to partnership, and I'm talking about partnership at all the levels. Like that reference there is the partnership between our tribal leaders and the Crown. The partnerships I'm talking about are the partnerships that get us into spaces like this, like the partnerships with the funders, with people like Reconnecting Northland, with our primary schools, with each other. with our marais, you know, in all the multiple levels. The partnership space has essentially brought us to this, and where I kind of started, a little bit similar to Storm, just freestyled my way through this, didn't really do much of a script, but essentially for us, it starts from Lake Ōmāpere, where our fresh water, from planting a tree, harvesting a seed, harvesting pippies, being a good parent, making sure you've got good kai in the cupboards, making sure you know how to harvest a fish, how to prep it, how to feed your whānau. That's all of the components, for me anyway, and for us I think in terms of our community, around a holistic kaitiaki. We've got lots of gaps, and we're working through processes to ID those gaps, and I think it's through partnerships like what we have with Reconnecting Northland under Te Kete Hononga, where we're able to ID some of those gaps and potentially fill some of those gaps. And you know, like the Whitebait Connection, Mountains to Sea, acknowledge Kim and those crew for the gaps that they've filled within that that kete that's not full. So just to kind of wrap up my little bit of kōrero, this stone here, and I don't know, have you had kōrero about?
No, we haven't.
No?
Kōrero mai.
Kōrero mai. So, tēnei he toka. So this is a stone that come from Waipaua, correct me if I'm wrong?
Hokianga.
Hokianga.
Ōmāpere ukonomi.
So when we got involved, it's kind of funny because I was already with Reconnecting Northland. I left Reconnecting Northland and transitioned directly into Ko Waitangi Te Awa Trust. So we worked a lot on Te Kete Hononga. Firstly, want to acknowledge Te Kete Hononga and its whakapapa in terms of tāwhaki or tāne, climbing the heavens to gather the 3 baskets of knowledge to bring that down for us as humans to be able to navigate the world. It's an indigenous concept or worldview of Māori around those 3 baskets of knowledge being gathered by an ancestor. And essentially, to the best of my knowledge, that's where the whakapapa of Te Kete Hononga comes from, is the baskets of knowledge and those being linked to us, to be able to use those in whatever means possible to get to Te Ao Marama. So this stone here was part of a process in terms of us as organisations linking into Te Kete Hononga, and in terms of this and the process we went through, it was out at Mānea in Hokianga, and yeah, I think about that day, and I think about the karakia that were done and the words that were woven from the spiritual realm into the physical realm and bestowed into the stone for us to move forward with. And essentially, for those who aren't aware of it, you'd call it a mauri stone, so it holds a certain type of mauri for us as an organisation that's been gifted to us by Reconnecting Northland to continue to navigate where we're going to. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in terms of wrapping this kōrero up for now. And yeah, look forward to the next little session we're going to go into, which is a bit of kōrero, some Q&A. Yeah, kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. So we're just going to bring